array of our classes. So we need to, number one was we need to create an array. So we're going to use lazy var, view controller array, VC array. Okay, and we're going to say that's going to be a array of UI view controllers. And we're doing lazy var because we won't know these ahead of time because the view hasn't completely loaded. So it's for that. So we need to get access to our storyboard. So if I create a variable called storyboard and say that it's a UI storyboard, the name of the storyboard is main. And I'll show you that in a second. Bundle is nil. So let's stop there and let's just go back to our storyboard so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, here we can see that our main interface, which is named main, that goes to the code that I just wrote where I said our storyboard is main. It tells you here main.storyboard is our storyboard. Now we also have a launch screen storyboard as well, but I just want you to know where that main comes from. Okay, so if we go back in here, let's finish doing this. So what we're going to do is create some variables for each of our view controllers. So we have a cam VC, which is going to be on our storyboard variable that we just created. And we're going to instantiate an instance of a view controller, and we named it cam VC. So that's basically getting access to our cam view controller. So when we swipe left, now our main view controller, which is going to be our app view controller, is on the storyboard. We're going to instantiate a view controller, and we named that app VC. This is going to be our beginning, our first view controller. Then let's do a message view controller, which is going to equal the storyboard, which is on the storyboard, and we're going to instantiate the view controller that has an identifier of message view controller. So when we swipe to the message view controller, now we're just going to return this array. We're going to return an array by adding these view controllers to the array. So app VC, we're going to add the cam VC, we're going to add the message VC. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. One of the things we do want to say is that this is going to be not only our data source, but also is going to control how this component moves. So we're going to add the UI page controller data source, and we're going to also add the UI page controller delegate, UI page view controller delegate. Apologize about that. So now at this point, this is going to be yelling at us for we have to add our open and close parentheses there. So this is going to yell at us for the root page view controller does not conform to protocol UI page view controller data source. So we have some work to do, right? So we have to declare that we are indeed going to be managing this ourselves. Set view controllers. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I said data source. Data source is equal to self. So we're going to self-manage this. We're also going to self.delegate is going to be equal to self. So we're basically handling everything. Now, another thing we want to do in this view.load, because we need to, at this point, know which view is our first. So we're going to do an if let our first view controller is going to equal self.viewController, our list here that we created. VC, our view controller array, dot first. And then we're going to set self.set view controllers. And then we're going to just add this first view controller here. Direction, we're going to say it's going to be in a forward direction. Animated true, nil. Okay, so there we go. We're actually starting off, and we are setting up what our first view controller is going to be. Next, what we have to do is stop this from yelling at us by implementing the protocol. So if we start to type, let's see. We can actually look at our protocols by just command and clicking on there. And now we can go and we can see what exactly this class is and the things that we need. So let's go ahead and grab our view controllers. So we need this and we need this. So let's grab that and let's go back to our view controller, and we're just going to copy and paste. And we're just going to clean up some of these annotations, and we're going to make this into an actual function. So let's for now return nil, just to get it to not yell at me. Return nil. And let's do the same here. There. Now, so the difference between these is very subtle, but it's actually here. And it's basically wanting to return when you swipe right, what's the first, the before view controller. So if these view controllers are in order, what happens when we swipe right? Where should we go? So let's go ahead and tell it exactly what we want it to do when it does that. So the first thing we want to really pay attention to is that on our index, we're not giving an item that's out of bounds. So if we're here and it wants to do the before, well, that is out of bounds. A -1 is not a valid response. So we have to safeguard against things of that nature. So let's go and put this in. So we're going to guard against this. So let's guard let view controller index. So VC index is equal to, so this view controller here is going to give us the view controller. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to say is in our VC array, get the index of let's see, dot index of this view controller that we have here. So in this, we're going to actually get the index of that. Now, let's say the before view controller. So let's say else, if we can't get it, then we're going to just return nil. And actually, let's move this to one line. Okay. And get rid of this. Now, we need to get access to our previous view controller. So let's do that. So let our previous, because before means previous, or we can say before or left, whatever makes sense to you, but our previous view controller is going to be equal to our view controller index, VC index, minus 1, because the one before the current one we're on is 1 minus that, correct? Okay, I think we all agree. So if we're on view controller 1, the previous one will be 0. Hope that makes sense. Now, of course, we have to do another guard statement, which is going to be getting our count. We want to make sure that we're not out of bounds again. So let's say our previous index, so the value of this previous index it needs to be greater than 0, else, greater than or equal to 0, else we want to say return, if we're inside of our bounds, or outside of our bounds, we're going to return nil. Okay? Just get rid of that. Else, we're going to return the previous. So if we're good, if we're in bounds and all that other great stuff, then we're just going to return. Make sure that another thing we need to make sure we are keeping track of. Actually, you know what? Let's actually return the last. One of the things I hate doing is when I'm paging through something and I've gone to the end and I have to go all the way back. So let's make this a round robin trip. And if that doesn't work for us, we can, of course, modify it later. But in that case, we're just going to take our VC array and we're going to say, let's just, if we've gotten all the way to the front, let's go back around to the back. Okay, so what is this telling me? Yeah. Make sure if you do decide to name something, so remember that name. So basically it was yelling because we were getting the index and checking the index. And if it's outside, then we're just going to, if it's not outside, then we're going to return the last. Okay, so another thing we need to guard against is that if our previous index is less than the count, because we're going the opposite way, is we're going to want to stop that. So stop that from going out of bounds. And I just want to make sure that that's making sense to me. So let's write another guard. And we're going to say, we want to check the count. VC array dot count is greater than our previous index. Else, return nil. And I don't know why I keep doing that. Maybe just to torture myself. I'm going to walk through this just to make sure it makes sense to me. So if none of those things happen, then what we're going to do is we're going to return that item at that index. So we're going to return VC array at that previous index. Okay, so let's walk through this to make sure this makes sense to us. Here's our function. Now, we have a public function that's a page view controller. We have a UIPageViewController, a view controller that happens before, and then it's going to return the next view controller. So once we swipe, which view controller should we be seeing? So let's start here at our guard. What we're doing is we're saying that for our view controller array. Now, if you remember, our view controller array contains 1, 2, and 3. The index of the view controller that we have here, which is going to be our before current one. So we're going to try to get at that position what's the view controller. Now, if that's out of bounds, so let's go ahead and just grab a pencil and just create a layer. So we have an array of view controllers, right? And this is VC1, or actually no, we have names for these, so I don't have to put that. So we have our cam view controller, we have our app view controller, and we have our message view controller. Next, I will invest in a pen so it doesn't look like I'm writing this with my feet. So what we're saying is, when we open up, where are we? So we're going to say we're going to be here, right? So this is index 0, 1, and 2. Now, when we swipe, right? So if we're at 0, what it's going to be looking for is the one before, which is going to be -1, because -1 is invalid. So it doesn't exist. So there's no -1. You're out of bounds. That's going to create an error. So if that's the case, so if we're not able to get this, we're going to return nothing. So if we're here and we try to swipe to the, I guess left will be the before one. No, right. Right will be the before one. If we try to swipe from here to the before, we're just going to return nothing. That's what that's saying. Else, so say we're here and we want to swipe to the right. Obviously, that's a very valid item in the array, so we're going to see the cam. Okay? Now, we're going to say, we're going to get that index. So our current index, let's say we're here, is going to be 1. So our previous index, so our current index is going to be 1. This value is going to be 1. So 1 minus 1 equals 0. So our previous index is going to equal 0. Now we're going to have another guard here. So we know that our previous index is 0 in this event where we're swiping from the app to the camera. If it's not greater than or equal to 1. So let's say, again, with this situation where it's -1. So -1 is not greater than or equal to 0. So we're going to go to the else. Then here we're just going to return the very last item in the array. So instead of saying nil here also, we're just going to say, well, nope, you're going to get this. So we're going to go to the messages. Okay, but if it is, it passes this guard statement. It comes up against another guard statement. When I think of guards, I think like police or some type of law enforcement, somebody with some authority to kick you out, right? So our array.count is the number of items in this array. So we have 3. So let's go ahead and put that here. So our numbers, this is our count. Our previous index is going to at this time be 0. This is just a guard to say, okay, this number needs to be greater than our previous index. If it's not, then we're going to throw it away. So if this is true, we continue to go. If it's not, then you get kicked out. So let me put a boot. You get booted out. Okay? So, like Jazzy Jeff, right? We get booted out. We're just going to return this item. It's our previous. So everything happened and everything's great. We're just going to return the previous item because we were on app. So I hope that clears it up a little bit. So let's go back into the code. Okay, so now we need to handle what happens in the event that we swipe to the left. So the after. Now, I won't go through that whole spell of the drawings and the diagrams because it's basically the same thing but in the reverse direction. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy and we're going to paste. Okay, we're going to change up some of the variables in order to make it appropriate. So the first one was previous, so let's do next. Get rid of all the previous. Let's just one thing at a time. Okay, now in the event of next, we're looking at our current one and seeing what is the actual next. So I'm going to hit change that from a negative to a plus. So from where we are into the next one. So if we're at index 0 or index 1, the next index will be 2. So that's going to be the index plus 1. So with this, in this case, so let's switch this around. Now, if our next index, we're going to actually say, let's actually switch this up. Just some stuff needs to be swapped around. So if our, let's just keep the same. Okay, so if our next index is a greater than our count, because at this point we're going to the opposite end of the array. The numbers are going to get bigger. The index numbers are going to get bigger. The count, and it shouldn't actually be greater than the count. So if the next index is less than a count, then we can actually return. Our array count. So if our next index is less than the array count, then we're going to continue. If it's not, so this is saying if what we calculate to be our next index is greater than the count, then that means that we have surpassed the array. So instead we're going the opposite direction, so we're going to return the first item. Okay? Now, the second part of it is that we want to make sure that the array count isn't greater than the index as well. So if for some reason our index count ends up being, 4, what we want to do is we want to return nil. Otherwise, we keep going. So we're gonna have a post a guard here. We're gonna post a guard here, and if it makes it past those few things, then we're going to go ahead and just return the next index. So let's see if that works. You know what I didn't do? I don't think I did. Okay, well, there we go. I was about to say that doesn't look familiar. Okay, so we want to assign our view controller. Without it, we're nothing. Controller called Cam VC. Let's see. This would be camera VC or Cam VC. Oh, I'm so silly. Let's go back. What I did is I capitalized each of these in storyboard, and I need to do the same here. So let's try to run this again. All right, so here we are. This would be our camera view controller. Let me just go to this so we can see this at the same time. So this is where we're starting on our main. Our main is indicated as number 1. We have the blue, and then we have the green. And then we just go around in circles because we just set the last, instead of saying kneel. Now what we're going to do next is we're just going to go and just clean this up a little bit. I don't like the page curl. I don't think that that's something that looks good in this situation. So we're just going to do scroll. All right, so let's just try that. Okay, so we're back here. That looks better. So if you could just imagine us being on our main page, our main view, going here, the camera popping up, and going here, and our message is popping up. So that's what we're going to end up doing next. Next, we're going to make this look a little bit better. We just wanted to go through the process of setting that up. And next, we're going to break down each of these components and work on them and make them look beautiful, Instagram-y. So, like I said, stay tuned. I hope to post the next video tomorrow of getting this together. I'm going to try my best to post this tonight, so that way we can actually go through and be on a schedule to set this up. And I'll probably set up a schedule so that way you can know what to expect and when to expect it. If you have any questions, please comment. Just as a frame of reference, I got a message today that I needed to get a mic or improve my sound quality, and I appreciated that feedback so much. So I went out and I got a mic. So let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you like and what you don't like, and hopefully I can develop around that. Always subscribe. Let me know that you're watching. Let me know your experience. Let me know things that you see that I'm not doing right, or things that you do in a different way. And yeah, thanks for watching.